Welcome to Your Personal Power Pod, a podcast about aligning yourself with the life you want. And here are your hosts, Sandy Abel and Shannon Young.
Shannon, it's wonderful to be back talking with you again. How are you today?
Sandy, happy 2024.
Indeed. It's a whole new year, and we're just beginning season 4 of our podcast. Can you believe that? 4 seasons? Wow.
Almost hit 100 episodes.
I know. And who knew 3.5 years ago when we started this, or whenever it was, that it would turn into this. But thanks to our listeners, you folks are awesome and you enjoy what we do, and we enjoy doing it with you. So thank you so much for hanging in there.
Absolutely. And happy 2024 to all of you. I hope that it is off to an awesome start.
Most definitely. So today we're talking about being resilient, which is about bouncing back or continuing to chug along when you're faced with a big change or a challenging situation. There are usually several ways you can respond to it. You can let it overwhelm you. You can let it stop you in your tracks. You can let it push you backwards. Or you can choose to be resilient and grow and learn and thrive.
And not immerse yourself in the, oh, woe is me mentality. Just tackle what needs to be tackled, do it with a smile on your face, and get through it.
Exactly. And there are all kinds of examples of that in the world all the time. Plus, there are all kinds of examples of people who choose to not be resilient. And it really is a choice.
Yeah, I think there's kind of a perception that resilience is a trait you either have or you don't have, but it's just about the choices you make.
Exactly. If you walk around feeling defeated all the time, then you're not going to be resilient. Resilience is about the capacity to navigate difficult situations or challenges and to learn from them and grow stronger as a result.
Yes, it's about embracing adversity as a part of life, understanding that, as my friend Gretchen says, life happens, things get lifey once in a while, and understanding that that's going to happen and choosing to let those situations be a catalyst for personal growth instead of letting them snow you under and do you in.
Exactly. And you always have the choice to go one way or the other. So when you're resilient, you find the positive and you claim your personal power.
Yes, it's interesting that science has told us that our brains are wired to adapt and overcome, but it doesn't just happen naturally. It is a skill that you can develop and that will eventually become easier and easier for you to engage in, but you have to make the decision to allow your brain to do that.
That's true. And when you face adversity, your brain activates various neural pathways that help you choose how to cope with your stress and how you want to bounce back. So you have the capacity, your brain helps you with that. It's a trait that can be cultivated and strengthened through intentional practices.
And the more you make that choice, the deeper those pathways become and the easier it is to be resilient in the future.
Absolutely. I have a friend who in the past year lost 2 really close family members, and then he had to have a couple surgeries.
Oh gosh.
And he was just devastated and down. And he finally shook himself off and said, wait a minute. Yes, this happened. Yes, it's terrible. Yes, I really miss my loved ones, but they would not want me sitting around feeling sorry for myself. They would want me to go out and live my life and do what I do, which is support other people. He's a professor in a college. So he picked himself up and put himself back on the track and is out helping other people again. That is resilience, but it was a choice.
Yes, and that's not to say that in a situation like that, it's not really important to give yourself time and space to grieve, but don't stay there.
Yes. As we've discussed the grief process before, part of it, your brain just sort of shuts down for a while and it's very hard to function. So if you can continue to get up and get dressed and eat your food, you're doing well for a while. But the key phrase there is for a while. You don't want it to run on and on and on and on and on.
It's the difference between being proactive in your life or being a victim, choosing to be a victim, to dwell on your problems, choose to do nothing about them, engage in coping mechanisms that are unhealthy, drugs, alcohol, overeating, gambling, overspending, all that stuff, rather than facing your problems head on and dealing with them in a healthy way.
Exactly. As we always keep saying about most things in your life, you can claim your personal power, make a choice, and move through it. And that is being resilient. There are so many examples of resilient people. We see them all the time. People who have been in a terrible accident and lost both their legs, or they have lost some kind of function. They say, well, okay, I can still push a wheelchair around. I've still got arms and I can still be me. And they just sort of rebuild who they are. And that is resilience. And it's just a wonderful trait to have. And the cool thing is you don't have to be born with it. You can develop it.
Right. And it doesn't just apply to situations that are as dramatic or traumatic as the example you just gave. The rest of us, we're all living in this world that just seems to be a dumpster fire right now. And it can be really overwhelming if you look at everything from climate change to politics to wars to famine to hunger at home. You can let yourself get beaten down by it and feel hopeless and kind of give in and figure, well, everything's going to hell in a handbasket. I might as well just quit.
Exactly.
Give up. I don't need to be happy. Or you can say, yeah, there's also a ton of really cool stuff going on. There are people who are helping. There are families and friends who love each other. Start looking really close to home at the little things and do what you can do. And even those tiny little steps of claiming your power can make all the difference.
Absolutely. It is a choice. A lot of people just choose, I call it the struggle suffer philosophy.
Yes.
Where if any little thing goes wrong, they go, oh, I knew it wouldn't work. Why do I try? There's no point. And these are obviously not resilient people because they just expect things to go wrong. And in a way, they're kind of pleased when they do because then they get to be right. See, I told you it wouldn't work, but they're definitely not resilient. And they're not saying, yeah, so this happened, so I'm going to grow. What's the lesson in this? What can I learn? How can I move ahead and use this as I push forward?
I think a lot of that starts with choosing to define situations in terms like right or wrong, good or bad. The fact is, things are going to happen in your life, and how you look at them will determine how you move through them.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
just because something appears maybe negative at first glance doesn't mean that it is. Ultimately, your life could be better for it when it's all said and done. So just accepting things are going to happen in my life, and I can choose how I label them.
Yes.
And that will determine how I handle them and how I'm affected by them.
Yes. I was listening to a Garth Brooks song the other day about thank God for unanswered prayers.
Yep.
And a lot of times we think we want something or something happens and it's not what we were hoping for and we feel really depressed and sad and like things are all falling apart. Then we move ahead and down the road we look back and go, oh my goodness, it is a really good thing that that thing didn't work out. Because now I'm in this new place, which is so much better. But if you don't start believing in yourself and find your power and be resilient and move ahead, you don't get past that doom and gloom and suffer philosophy.
You have to start believing in yourself and your ability to make a difference in whatever situation it is that you may be faced with. And decide to claim your personal power wherever it may be. Sometimes it's just how you view the situation. Sometimes there are actually steps you can take. And then allow yourself to grow from it.
Exactly. You say, wow, there's lessons in this. There are a lot of lessons in this. What can I learn? Have I learned that I'm stronger? Have I learned that I'm smarter than I thought I was? Have I learned that I'm more capable than I thought I was? You become much stronger in the process if you develop a growth mindset. And then you got to reframe the challenges as opportunities. Support and empower yourself. And it's also a good idea to build a strong support system of people who are in your corner, who believe in you and will be there for you regardless of what's going on. That makes a big difference. And then you also have to reach out to them and let them know, oh, this thing happened and I'm feeling really down and I need to go take a walk. You want to walk with me? Or I need to hear your take on what's going on. Use your support system.
Focus on the lessons that you're learning. I'll use an example of getting fired. That was brutal for me when I got fired in my 40s. It was the first time I'd ever been fired from a position.
And you didn't deserve it. You didn't deserve it.
Thank you.
It was a political situation. It was a political situation. You didn't do anything wrong.
It was, but it was devastating. And
Yes.
the person who fired me was my dear friend. And so the friendship it exploded,
Yeah,
basically.
right.
And so, like, to this day, I still have unresolved feelings around it. But if I focus on the loss and the hurt and the pain, I get nowhere. I just get more and more unhappy and sad. If I focus on what did this make me feel and why, well, it makes me feel sad because friendships are of huge value to me. And
Hmm.
the people in my life who are close to me, there aren't a lot of them. They matter a lot to me. So I
Right.
got to learn about my values and I got to learn about, well, as an employee, like, do I feel like I did something wrong? No, I
No, you
feel like
didn't.
I was in an impossible situation. Just looking at it from that perspective, what could I learn from this situation as opposed to what did I lose from this situation?
Perfect.
Totally changes. I mean, I can even feel it in my body talking about it. I can
Yeah.
feel how tense I get when I talk about what I lost and the
Uh-huh.
shame I feel and how embarrassing it was. But if I focus on what I learned and what I can take from that and use going forward, those feelings in my body go away. And I start feeling like, yeah, I can do this. This will affect how I move forward as an employee in a positive way.
Absolutely. And that is what resilience is. That's a perfect example of resilience, is when you are confronted with something that is unexpected or devastating or is a huge challenge. You say, okay, I don't like this a lot, but what can I do with it? How can I deal with it? We often mention the people in the concentration camps in World War II. Some people just gave in and fell apart, and that was their end. And other people found ways to work within the awful system they were stuck in and actually survived because they were able to be creative and clever and optimistic and positive and support each other, but also support themselves. So that is resilience.
They found a way to maintain their sense of humor,
Yes,
which
very
I think
important.
is really key when it comes to being resilient. I worked in 911 dispatch for a very brief period of time. I worked in television news, which was really brutal from time to time. My husband works in law enforcement. And a lot of the people involved in these industries have a really sick, twisted sense of humor.
Yes,
But they call it gallows humor. And
right.
that's because if you couldn't find things to laugh about, you would lose your mind.
Right. Exactly. And it's their way of being resilient. It's their
Yep,
way of coping. And it works.
it
It makes
works.
it so they can continue to do their really important jobs.
Hmm.
So that is resilience. And not only people, but also businesses and communities need to be resilient. If something happens in a business or in a community, there are options. You can go, oh dear, this is terrible. We'll just shut the doors. Or you can say, oh, well, what do we learn from this? How did this happen? And how can we make sure it never happens again? Let's make some changes. Let's fix what happened and make it right for the people that were affected. And that is also a way for organizations to be resilient.
It's important to make sure that everybody involved in an organization not just feels but knows that their viewpoint is important and valued, that they're encouraged to participate, that they are an important piece of the puzzle. Because really all it takes is for a couple of people to start feeling like they don't matter, and then you've lost whatever cohesion you've worked towards in your company or organization or community.
Exactly. And pulling together, being a powerful team can make all the difference. And obviously, you need some good leadership to make that happen. Like we said, if just you are dealing with something, access your support team, your support group, so you're not alone. And if you have a business or a community or whatever that is struggling, pull together, because there's a whole lot more power and resilience in numbers if everybody's on the same page and everybody's being positive.
Hmm. And I think it's important to remember that resilience is it's not a destination you're trying to get to. It's a practice, like meditation or being a physician. It's a thing
Right.
you work at daily, and the more you work at it, the better you become.
Yeah. When you embrace challenges, you learn from them, you use them as stepping stones toward a stronger, more resilient you'll bounce back and become more powerful than ever before. And that is resilience. And if you're resilient, you will be able to create the life you want.
Not to mention you'll have more fun doing it.
Absolutely. Life will be wonderful.
Thank you, Sandy.
And thank you, Shannon. And thank you to our listeners.
We are excited to be doing another year with you. So please continue to reach out to us. We love hearing from you. We love when you share your stories about self-esteem and personal power and how they've affected your life or how you've grown them or grown into yourself. And we also really like it when you suggest topics for us to address in future episodes. That's really helpful for us. And it's fun to be talking about things you want to learn about. And we also really love it when you review our podcast. So if you'd like to do so, you can wherever you stream, or if you'd just rather talk to us directly, you can visit yourpersonalpowerpod.com, click contact, and drop us an email. And if you want to learn about how coaching can change your life, contact Sandy at insidejobscoach.com. We look forward to hearing from you. And until next time, find your power and change your life.